friends, so today we will learn about the what is mean by respiratory system and what are the anatomical functions. So we will see what is mean by a respiratory system. So respiratory system is a process of uptaking oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide from tissue of the body. So it is a process of uptaking oxygen and removal of carbon dioxide from the tissue of the body. And we will see what are the complex functions performed by the respiratory system. So the complex functions performed in the unicellular organisms means they directly exchange of gases takes place by the external environments. Means see here, exchange of oxygen and CO2 directly with the external environments. Means as we see in a unicellular organism that doesn't have a specialized functions or a system. Means they are in the form of algae or in the form of jelly in shape, so they doesn't have any specialized system, so they can exchange of O2 and CO2 directly with the external environment. As we see in the multicellular organism, as an example of our human bodies, we have a specialized system. So we have a specialized system for our body. So we can exchange O2 and CO2 with the external environment through the specialized system. These are the complex substance performed by the respiratory system. We will see what is mean by external respiration and internal respiration. So external respiration means exchange of gases between the atmosphere and the lungs. So external respiration means it occurs between the atmosphere and the lungs, and the internal respiration means it occurs between the blood and the tissue. So these are the external and the internal respiration. So we will see what is mean by inspiration. So inspiration means, in the word we can see that inspiring, so inspiration, so inspiring. So inspiration, during this phase the air is taken into the lungs from the atmosphere. So the air is taken into the lungs, so inspiring. And the expiration means in this phase air is expelled out of the lungs, so expiring. So we will expire O2 and inspire oxygen. And expiration means CO2 is removing, and inspiring means inspirating O2. So this process of inspiration and followed by the expiration is called one respiratory cycle. This process of inspiration followed by the expiration is called as a one respiratory cycle. So the normal respiratory rate is 12 to 18 cycles per minute. So we have a specific normal respiratory rate, that is 12 to 18 cycles per the minute. And the process of respiration occurs in three steps. So the process of respiration will be occurred in three steps. One is first step, it involves exchange of gases in the lungs. So it involves exchange of gases in the lungs. And the second step, it involves transport of gases to the blood. So in second step, the transport of gases to the blood. In third step, exchange of gases at the tissue. So in the third step, exchange of gases at the tissue. So first step we can see gases in the lungs, and the second step we can see gases through the blood, and third step we can see gases at the tissue. So these are the three steps. So we will know what is mean by a respiratory system. So a respiratory system means it has a main function of respiratory system, means it provide oxygen to the cells and remove carbon dioxide from the cells. So the main function of respiratory system is to provide oxygen to the cells and remove carbon dioxide from the cells. So cells in the body derive energy mainly by utilizing oxygen. So by the utilizing oxygen, the cells may derive energy. So it should be provide oxygen to the cells and remove carbon dioxide from the cells. So why a carbon dioxide removed from the cells means when the carbon dioxide has to be eliminated from the cells, as the accumulation leads to toxicity. So by the presencing of the CO2 in our cells may lead to toxicity, and it involves in many non-respiratory functions. So respiratory system also involve many non-respiratory functions, we can see that non-respiratory functions are sneezing or coughing or or etc., talking, like that we can see non-respiratory functions. So it involves non-respiratory functions also. The respiratory system consists of lung, conducting airways, rib cage, respiratory muscles and respiratory centers in the brain. So we can see in respiratory system lungs, conducting airways, rib cage, respiratory muscles and respiratory centers in the brain. So we will see what are the functional anatomy. So in functional anatomy we will learn what are the lungs, airways, upper respiratory tract, lower respiratory tract, alveolus, what are the types of the cells. So in functional anatomy, so first respiratory tract means we can say that lungs. So a respiratory tract means it is a lungs. So lungs are the organs of respiration. So these are the organs of respiration. Human respiratory system consists of two lungs. One is right lung and the another one is left lung. So and they are covered by a membrane called pleura. So these respiratory lungs are covered by a membrane called pleura. So we can see here it is a lung and it is a membrane. 1 minute. It is a lung and it has a membrane called pleura. We can see here it is a pleura. So see here it is a lung and it has a membrane called pleura. So it is covered by a membrane pleura. And pleura has two layers, parental outer pleura and visceral inner pleura. So parental means this outer layer and visceral means this inner, means here this one. This we can see it has a pleura. I marked here, this is the 1 and this is the 2. So this is the parental and this is the visceral. Means it has an inner and outer layers. See here, a functional anatomy, lungs are the organs of respiration. So these lungs are the organs of respiration. So these lungs are organs of respiration. And human respiratory system consists of two lungs, right and left. So we can see here the right and left lungs. And they are covered by a membrane called pleura. So we can see here pleura. I marked just here by representing the one lung. So it is a pleura. So I represent here from here. So this membrane is called a pleura. Lungs has covered by a membrane called pleura. We can see two layers. In pleura we can see two layers. So we can clearly see here two layers of pleura that are. So this one is the outermost layer. This one, 1 minute. This one is the outermost layer and this one is the innermost layer. So outermost layer is called as a parietal pleura and the innermost layer is called visceral pleura. So these are the two types of two layers of pleura. And we can see the lungs are divided into lobes. So here we can see the lungs are divided into lobes. These are the lobes. The lungs are divided into the lobes. The right lung has 3 lobes and the left lung has 2 lobes. So the right lung has 3 lobes and the left lung has 2 lobes. And we will see what is the airways. So what are the airways in respiratory system? So in the respiratory tract includes nasal cavity, pharyngeal sinus, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles and alveoli. So we can see here pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, nasal cavity, oral cavity. So these are the respiratory tract that includes organs, and the air passes from the nose to the nasal cavity and later into the pharynx. So first we can see that nasal cavity and later we will see pharynx. So the air is passes from the nose to nasal cavity and later into the pharynx, and the pharynx is the common passage of air and food. So it is a pharynx is a common passage of air and food. It continued into the larynx, and next pharynx is continued into the larynx. So larynx contains voice cords. So larynx contains vocal cords. So first we will see the respiratory tract. Air passes to the nose and to the nasal cavity and later into the pharynx, and pharynx is followed by the larynx. So larynx contains vocal cords, and the larynx opens along with the tube called trachea. So and the larynx opens into the trachea, and the trachea divides into two bronchioles. So the trachea will divide into two bronchi. Each bronchiole enters the lungs. So these each bronchioles enter into the lungs. With the lungs, the branch further into the bronchioles. So they are further divided into the bronchioles. The terminal parts of bronchioles are termed respiratory bronchioles. The respiratory bronchioles end in the alveoli. So has in diagram I will clarify you. So we can see here I told the respiratory tract includes nasal cavity. So these are the nasal cavity and pharyngeal sinus. So we can see here pharyngeal sinus and pharynx. So this is the pharynx, and next larynx, and next trachea, and next bronchi, and next bronchioles. So bronchioles are divided into bronchioles, and next alveolus. So this has alveolus. Here we have alveolus. So the air passes from the nose. So we can see here it is a nose. So air passes into the nose, and by the nose to the nasal cavity. So by the nose we have a nasal cavity, and to the nasal cavity into later pharynx. So from here they directly enter into the pharynx, and the pharynx is a common passage of food and air. So it is a common passage of food and air. It continues into larynx. So it continues into larynx. So after pharynx we can see larynx, it continues into the larynx. So larynx contains a vocal cords. So here we have a vocal cords, and the larynx opens into a long tube called trachea. So it is a long tube. We can see here it is a long tube called trachea, and the trachea divides into bronchi. So we can see here bronchus. These are the bronchus, and the bronchus enter into the lungs. So we can see here lungs. The bronchus directly enter into the lungs. With the lungs branches further into bronchioles. So we have bronchioles. So here we have bronchioles. Bronchioles are further divided into bronchioles. So these further divided into bronchioles like this. They have like this bronchioles, and this bronchioles is termed as a respiratory bronchioles. So these bronchioles is termed as a respiratory bronchioles, and the respiratory bronchioles end in the alveolus. So after bronchioles we have alveolus. So alveolus means we have like this bronchioles, and they have like structure like this. They are the alveolus. And we will see about what is mean by upper respiratory tract. We have covered airways, and we will see what is upper respiratory tract. So the upper respiratory phases from nostrils up to the vocal cord. So these upper respiratory is the passage from nostril to the vocal cords. Is called upper respiratory tract. So upper means from nostril to the vocal cord. So we have seen diagram here. It has nostrils. So we can see here upper respiratory tract from nostrils. Nostrils means we have near to the nasal cavity we have nostrils. So by this from here to the vocal cords. So we can see vocal cords nearer to the larynx. So up to here it is known as a upper respiratory tract. So these are known as a upper respiratory tract, and it performs three important functions. So we can see three important functions. What are the functions? It filters large particles present in the inhaled air. So when we inhale through the nose, it filters large particles and adjusts the temperature of inhaled air close to the body temperature. So it adjusts the temperature inhaled to the body temperature. Humidified air as it enters the body, so it also humidifies the air as it enters the body. And we will see what are the lower respiratory tract. So upper respiratory tract means we have said that nostrils to the vocal cord. So lower respiratory tract means it begins with the nostrils, means it begins with the vocal cords. So vocal cords means from here, we can see here I has marked, so it is a vocal cord. So from the vocal cords we can see up to here lower respiratory tract. So it is the upper respiratory tract and it is the lower respiratory tract. So we will see what is the lower respiratory tract. So lower respiratory tract means passes below the vocal cord is called lower respiratory tract. The lower respiratory tract begins with the trachea and divided into bronchi. So I have explained in the diagrams, it begins with the trachea and divided into bronchi, which subdivide respectively from bronchioles, which has the alveoli. So the respiratory tract has 23 times. So it has a 23 times. The first 16th generations form the conducting zone. So it is the respiratory tract. So it is a respiratory tract. It has a 23 divisions, from 0 to 23 divisions we can see. So the first 16th generation. So we have seen here the first 16th generation from here to here. It is the conducting zone, has here it is represent, it is a conducting zone. And the 17th to 19th generations from the transition zone. So 17th to 19th it is a transition zones, and 20th to 23rd generations from the exchange zone. So 20 to 23rd it is the exchange zone, and exchange of gases can take place from the 17th to 23rd generation. So by the 17th to 23rd generation exchange of gases can be takes place. So these divisions were numerated as digested as generations. So these numerals were designed as a generation. So these are designed as a generation. So I had told that conducting zone, transition zone, exchange zone. So these are designed as a generations by the Swiss anatomist E.R. Wibbel according to the model. So according to the model, Swiss anatomist E.R. Wibbel has designed. So in this model the trachea is designed as a generation zone. So these all divisions we can see in the trachea. So it is designed in the trachea, and we will see what is alveoli. So alveoli are the site for the gaseous exchange. So the main site of gaseous exchange is alveoli. These are the tiny hollow sacs. So these alveoli are the hollow sacs for the gaseous exchange. So these alveoli are the hollow sacs for gaseous exchange. So these tiny hollow sacs continue with the lumen. So these tiny hollow sacs continue with the lumen of the bronchioles. The cells are flattened, these cells are flattened and form a single layer. So these cells are flattened and form the single layer. The alveoli contain two types of cells. So in alveoli we can see two types of cells. So we can see type 1 cells and the type 2 cells. So in type 1 cells it is a main lining cells of the alveoli. So in type 1 cell it is the lining cells of the alveoli. Gaseous exchange occur throughout these cells. So gaseous exchange occur throughout these cells. These are the lining cells of the alveoli. So type 1 cells are the lining cells of the alveolar gaseous exchange throughout these cells. And the type 2 cells, these are present at the alveolar macrophages. So these are the alveolar macrophages, mast cells, plasma cells, APUD, etc. And the alveolar macrophages are phagocyte in nature. So these type 2 cells are phagocytic in nature. Mast cells contains heparin and histamine. So phagocytis means eliminating the bacteria like that. So they have different types. And we can see here type 2 cells are specialized thicker cells that produce a substance is called surfactants. So it produces a substance is called surfactants. It is important. So type 2 cells, it have a these are the specialized thicker cells that produce substances called surfactants. So these are the type 1 and type 2 cells. And thank you friends. Please subscribe my channel and like my channel. Please comment in comment box. If any mistakes, please comment in comment box. And thank you friends. Thank you.